Order. Question number 2, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Does he have confidence in his Minister for Tertiary Education, Skills and Employment, given the Student Loan Scheme Annual Report 2015 forecasts student loan debt will hit $15.458 billion this year?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, not only do I have confidence in Mr Joyce, I'm actually immensely proud of him because he's the minister under which we've seen the student loan balance growing at the slowest rate in more than a decade. What a remarkable achievement that's been under his leadership.
Supplementary.
Order. Order. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Does he even accept that forcing young people into $15 billion worth of student debt creates a barrier to study and puts off other life opportunities like owning your own home?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I think the term forcing people is incorrect. Actually, people do take student loans and they take them because they know that on average, if they have an undergraduate degree, they'll earn 46% more on average after 5 years. That's a very sensible investment.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Does he agree with the New Zealand Herald and the Dominion Post that supporting the Kiwi dream by investing in free education is a better use of taxpayer money than his plan to borrow for tax cuts?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, firstly, I wouldn't jump to conclusions on what policies National will or won't be implementing. You have to wait for those. But, Mr Speaker, I think putting more money into student loans at a time where 70 to 80% is already paid for by taxpayers, when you would be essentially asking lower paid New Zealanders to cross-subsidise people who will be earning more, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me.
They don't get education. Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Will he come with me this afternoon, hand in hand if necessary, to Massey University and explain why he wants to give tax cuts for the wealthy instead of reducing the $15 billion student loan burden?
You're not going to...
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, if the member will come on TV tonight and say he's going to vote for the new New Zealand flag, I'll come hand in hand with them to Massey University for sure.
Supplementary.
Order. Order.
That was pathetic.
Order. Order. When I'm on my feet, the Honourable Annette King should not continue to interject. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Isn't the reality of the situation this, that his State of the Nation reheated policy was just a reheat and a flop, and Labor's fees-free policy has drawn praise from across the land?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I think it's a dangerous precedent to get into, my press coverage is better than your press coverage argument. But I remember when we announced that actually we would be joining with Auckland City to fund the City Rail link, when we went in there and said the East-West link would be developed, when other important regional roads like Mount Messenger would be completed. I remember the press coverage from that, Mr Speaker, and then I remember the press coverage from the announcement from Labor. Actually, that's right. There wasn't much coverage, and that's why we keep getting asked these questions every day, because they're hoping to reheat their failed policy. And the simple reason is why there wasn't much press coverage is this. For the policy to be implemented, they not only have to win one election, Labor would have to win 4. I mean, everything I see, they haven't got a...
Order. Well, answer's quite long enough. Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
Given the public's support for Labor's fees-free plan, which is presently running at 2 to 1, will he just level with me for a moment? When can we expect him to adopt this as National Party's policy, given his adoption of other policies he hated, like KiwiSaver, interest-free student loans, working for families?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, it's certainly true, Mr Speaker, that under a national-led government we have continued with policies like interest-free student loans. I accept that. But actually, here's the rub, isn't it? Yeah, well, I thought there were some real issues with it, but actually, here's the point. Mr Joyce has dramatically improved that, because under Labor, under Labor, student debt grew at 11.6%. Under National, it grows at 4.2% and is predicted to be at 2.8%. Mr. Speaker, we're very happy with our policies and they're working well. Thank you very much.
Supplementary.
Order.
Do you know the difference
Order.
between free and
Supplementary question, Andrew Little.
When will he just admit what everybody else knows, that Labor's vision for free education in the 21st century is in every Kiwi's best interests?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think it is in every Kiwi's best interest if you're asking a lower paid New Zealander to actually pay more of their taxes to someone that's going to earn a lot more. I think the balance is set about right. And I think most New Zealanders can see that, yes, it's worth investing in our people for tertiary education, but when we're paying 70 to 80% of the bill, it's about right. Well, you're not doing it in my son.
Question number 3.